Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to my little piece of paradise here in Bonnyville, Alberta. And I'm going to take a few minutes now to reflect on Module 3 and specifically a quote I've chosen from the list spoken by Marshall McLuhan. I chose the quote that he had referenced in an interview, and that was that we are what we behold, and we shape our tools, and our tools thereafter shape us. I agree with this quote, specifically for a few reasons. For one, being that, well, I had to, in fact, look up what it means to behold, and so it highlights the reason for this module. That is, behold means what we observe and see. And so I've observed and seen a lot of things, but obviously we each have individual perspectives beyond culture or whatever major groups we're associated with. So I believe that is true. We become what we observe and see as individuals. And then to shape our tools, I would say that I am in fact evidence of this. I have been a journeyman carpenter for 14 years, and coming into this education program is in fact equipping me or shaping the tools that I have to teach my trade. And once I've completed this program and become a teacher and I'm in the classroom, the tools that I have will in fact shape my early years of instruction, and that will evolve throughout my career. However, in each given moment, I can only use what tools I have. I can't teach beyond myself, and I can't teach to people beyond what is known. I can't teach the future. So when Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message, it really had strong connections to me with my program with CTS programs, or with my specific specialty of carpentry, because the way that CTS programs are often taught, there are many opportunities for students to visualize what the teacher's talking about and to handle objects or projects or materials to overcome the differences of language and the meaning of language used. So as far as supporting rationale, that my own experience serves in that capacity, as well as Module 1 and Module 2, where we talked about culturally responsive teaching and culturally responsive pedagogy, and the use of language in my mind prior to reading this module was a lot more static. I think because I was always interpreting the meaning of words as what the prescribed definitions were that I had to teach as terminology, my trade, that were either defined by my own education or through code books or etc., things that I couldn't really control. What helped clear this up for me and to give a deeper meaning to the medium is the message was what Jason spoke about in the module presentation, or introduction rather, when he spoke about Bix language versus Calc language. And I realized in many cases I can actually break down complex terminology, and in many cases that is verbally communicated language. Sometimes it's nonverbal, but often verbally communicated language, and how I could simplify it to students to overcome that language barrier. So now, to apply it personally, I want to show you here. I'm in my barn, and I remember when I built this railing, I had two young German fellows helping me, and I remember when we had to plane the lumber, and when we had to cut the rebar, and when we had to saw the lumber, drill holes, and assemble this beautiful creation, how it was so much simpler to explain what we were doing by demonstrating first what they were going to do and then helping them through it, modeling it for them, demonstrating it for them, and then doing it with them. I think it helped them to grasp terms like planing and sawing and steel versus wood and things that I would think are simple terms, but to someone from a different country becomes very complex. So this railing inspired me for this lesson, and to go further into my specific subject area, I want to bring you outside, and I'm going to show you another little demonstration. So if I took the lens and I covered it, and I told you about some different roof systems. Okay, we're going to talk about roof systems in construction. We're going to talk about shed roofs and gable roofs, and we're going to talk about gambrel roofs. And I can tell you a shed roof is a single sloped roof. A gable roof is a two sloped roof. A gambrel roof has a break in the slope of the roof. That would all sound very complex. Now if I come out here and actually show you, okay, if you come over here, this little building right here has a single sloped roof. See how the angle of the roof, that's a single slope roof. That's called a shed roof. This one over here, that is also a shed roof. And that one over there is another bigger example. That is also still a shed roof. It has nothing to do with size, okay? Whereas this chicken coop here, this is a gable roof. See how there's two sloping sides? That is a shed roof. And so is this little brown porta potty. This is a gable roof, okay? There's two different slopes, and they're both straight-sided. Now, to take it one step further with the gambrel roof is often what we call a barn roof, okay? You can see it down there, and the roof actually starts off with a low slope and then gets much steeper on each side of the roof. Okay, that's very characteristic of a gambrel roof. It was probably a lot more beneficial to you that I was able to bring you out here and actually show you different roofs, because you may already have your own terminology for what those are. And so in the CTS programs, I've taken for granted that I'll often have materials, tools, and projects in front of me to help me overcome language barriers, whether it's barriers due to, as was also mentioned in the module seminars, about the speaker's interpretation or speaker's meaning versus the audience interpretation or interpreted meaning of the words. So these different forms, to me, will be much easier to overcome in my specific program because there isn't a lot of written language. So a lot of the onus will then be on me and the words coming out of my mouth. And it's going to have to be up to me to stop, take a step back, and think about the words that I'm using to try and simplify things better. And at the same time, though we didn't really cover it in this module, but to understand body language and, you know, whether people are understanding what I'm saying, whether they've applied their own meaning, or whether they have questions and you see furrowed brows and they really don't get it. So in closing, I really appreciate this idea that the medium is the message, that, you know, that language can take on different forms, and that by being sensitive, by being culturally responsive in my teaching, and including language as part of that cultural responsiveness, I can go a lot further in effective instruction for all individuals, not just those who share different cultural backgrounds as me. It may be sometimes just gaining the understanding of the language of my trade. And so thank you for that.